Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. I know the Cleveland Indians are just starting to play. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting here with it in the corner of my eye, and you know something? I don't give a flying fuck about it. There's something about 20-degree wind chill factor baseball that just doesn't excite me very much. Guys hitting the ball as hard as they can and it doesn't go anywhere, and mediocre pitchers become great Hall of Fame pitchers, and prolific power hitters can't hit, and so it goes. So you know something? I'm walking away from baseball. All right? I will watch baseball. I ain't going to talk about it on this program while it's on. If y'all want to watch the Cleveland Indians, you can fucking watch it. I'm talking football. I'm talking Cleveland Browns. And Steven is with me. Steven, you're with me.
Mr. Moohead, before we go to the Cleveland Browns, since we're talking about the weather,
yes.
Yahoo just reported this morning that we have 5 to 6 cold fronts coming that is in a span between 6 to 8 weeks. So you're looking between mid-May, possibly going into early June now, according to Weather Channel.
Now, who's going to get that kind of weather?
Northern United States, Minnesota, South Dakota, Chicago area, any areas up north, that continental drift that they're talking about.
I really got to ask you a serious question, though. Who really gives a fuck about those states? I mean, really. I mean, South Dakota, if South Dakota froze and there was a glacier age in South Dakota, what in the hell would we really miss?
Well, I'm just fortunate enough that the Houston Astros are playing Minnesota tonight in 22-degree weather versus having to wait till Friday and having to play in -6. So I'll do my math. I'll take the extra 28 degrees warmer, even though it's going to be affecting my team because we're a warmer weather city team, and, going up north in the cold and baseball, trying to hit the ball at a 22, at 85-mile-an-hour fastball. It's not going to be so pleasant for us,
Before we get to the football draft, and look at the snow falling in Cleveland. I mean, this is a fucking joke. Yeah. It's a fucking joke. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's stupid. But I want to start the program off with what I call revisionism. Revisionism is something that we're seeing a lot of. Revisionism just means to take something of a historical nature and to revise actually what really happened and try to turn it into something that didn't really happen. All right. Here's your headline. Mark McGwire. I didn't need PEDs to hit 70 home runs.
Mm-hmm.
Mark McGwire insists he didn't need to use performance-enhancing drugs to hit 70 home runs, telling The Athletic in an interview on Monday that he would have accomplished the feat without any help. Absolutely, McGwire said. I just know myself. I just know. I was a born home run hitter. I mean, unfortunately, I did take PEDs, and I've regretted that. I've talked about that. I regretted it. I didn't need to. That's the thing. I didn't need to.
He's so full of shit. Him and Sosa, that year they went chasing the 70 home runs. Yeah, I mean, it was great for baseball at the time, and it was great for, casual baseball fans like myself who, got to see something that, you normally get to see your average 1-0 games. You got to see the chase for 70. But after both of those assholes got caught juicing it up, notice how their home run numbers went down. Notice how after the big scandal happened, you've seen more perfect games. You've seen more no hitters. You've seen more of that. So his argument is definitely contradicts himself based on stats alone. Because after he was busted, he hit nowhere near 20 to 30 home runs a season after that, let alone 80.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, but he was known to be a good guy and people liked him and all of that good stuff. He was Jim Thomey's best bud and all that good stuff. He was a good old boy who went hunting in the off season and, all that good stuff. He was all American. But you know something? I fucking hate him now. He came out and admitted he did it and he got back into baseball. They should throw his ass out. Get him out of there. Fuck him. The way I look at Mark McGwire is if in fact you could have done it on your own, why did you take them in the first place? Here's what his answer to that is. There wasn't anything going on to keep the sport clean, McGuire said. The game has done a terrific job of doing what they're doing now. I commend them for doing it. I think we all wish that testing went on when we had played, but unfortunately, it didn't. Let me rephrase that. You know something? Somebody had to throw the switch at Bergen-Belsen and in Dachau to release the gas to kill 6 million people. You know, it wasn't the greatest thing in the world, and I really wish that I wasn't the guy who threw the lever and killed all those millions of people. But, you know, unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way. Whatever happened to character? I don't understand this. Whatever happened to people's characters?
I'm trying to remember the guy who tried to come in defense of Barry Bonds. I think it was Miguel Tejada. I think if I'm correct, he said something stupid. He said, even if he's on performance enhancing drugs, so what? It's him hitting the homers, not the drugs. I'm like, yeah, but the drugs are essentially helping your performance to hit those home runs. Can you do it without the drugs? The answer would be no.
Well, I mean, in the case of Mark McGuire, he doesn't bring up the fact that he could never legitimately get more than 500 at-bats in a season because he got injured all the time, and that he was taking these drugs not just to make him Herculean in strength, but to actually allow his body to get more mass and to be able to fight off the injuries that were shortening his seasons. The reason he couldn't hit that many home runs was because he couldn't last a full season. And, you know, this revisionism makes me sick to my stomach. Because the truth is, if he believes, or if he's trying to convince us now that he could have done it all on his own, then the only reason that he was taking, according to him, that he was taking PEDs is that baseball was a dirty, filthy sport. And damn it, if they were going to give him the opportunity, he was going to take it. Even though it killed Lyle Alzado. It fucking killed him. Yeah. It's a carcinogen. It doesn't seem to matter to him that he could have hurt his family, that he could have his wife and his kids. Didn't seem to matter to him. Not even now it doesn't matter to him. Hey, as long as baseball allowed it, I was going to do it. It's, you know, get rid of people like that. Just get rid of them.
At least Jeff Bagwell admitted that he took steroids, but after the steroids wore off and he was required to perform on his own, he could never stay healthy. He was always having that shoulder injury. So he never could stay on the field for a whole season, sort of like McGuire, you know?
And that's, you know, part of the reason they were taking him in the first place. The muscle mass, ask Mary Pierce, the female tennis player, you know, you're taking creatinine and you take this stuff, or creatine, and you know, it builds up your body and it makes you more resistant, and your joints more resistant to the shock of the perpetual playing. And, you know, the wear and tear, it makes the wear and tear a little bit easier. So it does make it easier for you to perform if you're able to play more often. So, and it does add to your body mass and to your strength. So regardless of what that piece of shit says, you know.
I mean, Roger Clemens the same way. How are you almost a 40-year-old man at the time, and you go to the World Series in 05 and 04, and he had more muscle mass on him than he did in his early 30s and 20s? I mean, you had to have known that was steroids written all over his forehead right there, you know?
Absolutely. You know, Brian Holman in the chat room. I mean, you looked at him. I mean, he looked like the Stay Puft guy. Brian Holman, how are you, Moo? I'm fine, Brian. When he was clean, he only hit 49 with a juice baseball in 1987. Hell, George Bell cranked out 47 that same year. Brian's got some good insights. 1980s are also the only decade without a 50 home run hitter in any season. It killed John Matusak too. That's right. You know. A lot of people. And Gary Kazee in the chat room is saying LeBron James. You know, look, I am not for the life of me going to argue that LeBron James, when he was cramping up, you remember when he was in Miami and at the very end of his time in Cleveland, he really got big and he started cramping up on the court. I think he bulked up so much that his muscles couldn't handle it anymore. So yes, I think LeBron James was taking performance substances. The league stopped people from using them, and the people who were most affected would be guys like Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
who went from being a superstar in the NBA and without them just became a vagabond. He went from team to team. So, my feeling is that I'm not in favor of any of these drugs, but boy, I hate the revisionist thing. I just can't stand it. Now, football. Everybody that I'm seeing on social media is upset with Cleveland Sports Radio because they're not talking enough about the draft, and they're talking too much about what I'm pointing at right now, Brandon Guyer. Everybody's talking about Brandon Guyer. No, talk about the Cleveland Indians, and nobody really gives a flying fuck. And having done this program for 14 years, I can honestly tell you that, we have issues when it comes to viewership, when it comes to baseball season. We're getting into a good time right when the draft hits, and right after the draft, we'll be hammered on the air. The NBA, we've been lucky the last couple of years. The NBA playoffs have been deep for us and given us a lot to talk about. But in the seasons where we were not an NBA deep running or even a playoff team, no, baseball never carries an audience at all.
No.
So, we'll talk football because I think there's more interest in that right now, to tell you the truth. The Cleveland Browns, I want to focus in on the 4 picks because I've done more research, and, rather than doing what they do on 24/7 sports channels, which is revise their drafts. I think, what do they call them? The mock draft number 77.435, so that they can take every ridiculous variation. I say it doesn't matter what goes beyond the first 4 picks a team has, because in the case of the Browns, once you get out of the second round, we have no idea who's going to be on the board, who's not going to be on the board. So it's all a bunch of horse shit. You're just guessing anyway. I say the first 4 picks, you're going to get something of what you need. And the discussion should be, what do the Cleveland Browns, A, really need, but B, based upon what they've done with free agency, what has, how would I put it? What becomes a greater possibility and what becomes a lesser possibility? The things that I like about the Browns, free agency selections, obviously, they've helped their wide receiver core with Jarvis Landry. That's great. We've got Josh Gordon coming back. That's great. We've got Njoku, who I think is going to be a good receiver. Then we have Corey Coleman, who the jury is out on. And I would say that this is the year that if something is going to happen with Corey Coleman, it better happen, because we're going to have legitimate wideouts surrounding him. And if he can't make an impact this year, he's going to be the next guy you see shipped out, because he's just not going to make it in the NFL. My feeling about him is that instead of running him deep down sidelines, he's so short and he's not going to outjump anybody. With the big guys that we're going to have the opportunity with Njoku to go downfield, with Gordon to go downfield. I like to think that leaves the middle of the field wide open for a guy like Coleman, who can work on his pass routes and use his slithering ability to get open over the middle of the field. He should become a very good 4th receiver, and somebody that Tyrod Taylor looks at a lot, because people are going to be worried about Josh Gordon. So I look at the wide receiver position and I say the Browns aren't going to use any of the first 4 picks on a wide receiver, Stephen. There's no reason.
Oh, I agree. I think, like I said, the beneficial thing about what Cleveland did in the offseason this year, with the addition of the Tyrod Taylor, the Carlos Hyde, the Jarvis Landry, and all the other acquisitions you brought on this team, it sort of leaves the door wide open to where you can sort of pick running back or quarterback with the first pick and go vice versa, or maybe offensive line in the second. Like, in other words, you guys are now in position to where you're not in a forced situation to have to pick this specific guy, you now have sort of a variation of options now to pick different offensive guys to fit your offense based on what you have right now. So there's no rush to pick a running back with the number 1 pick, or much less even a quarterback with the number 1 pick.
Brian Hallman is throwing darts in the chat room right on the money. He said, keep in mind when Tyrod Taylor was throwing to Sammy Watkins, he had 20 touchdowns on the season. And, again, what Corey Coleman might look like when there are actually professional receivers surrounding him might be, he might be finding himself going up one-on-one against somebody that he can consistently beat, in the middle of the field. So we can hope. So, go ahead.
So, Mr. Moohead, do you agree that your 1st and 4th pick, I'm pretty much on the same line as long with my dad and everybody else, said that the Browns got to go whichever combination you prefer it, quarterback, running back, quarterback. Do we agree with those terms, or is there anything we're missing here?
No, I don't agree with that anymore.
Okay. What would your suggest? What are your thoughts are?
Here's the deal. I mean, the way this league is constructed, you have the number 1 pick and you're the Cleveland Browns, who haven't had a quarterback since Hector was a pup. Honestly, you've got to choose a quarterback. They're going to choose a quarterback number 1. To think anything else is absolutely crazy. But you need an impact player at number 4. The question is, what kind of impact player are you looking for? And the other thing is, what hints might we have? Why would the Cleveland Browns bring in Carlos Hyde and pay millions of dollars for him? Why would they do that, Stephen?
That's a good question. I mean, you would have to think that they're not going to go running back if they already signed Carlos Hyde to a big deal. So kind of makes you think they might switch gears and maybe go offensive line or defense, maybe. That'd be my only guess.
Well, I mean, my feeling is you pay Carlos Hyde to replace I put him out of my mind the second they leave Cleveland. And I honestly, players who leave Cleveland, Isaiah Crowell, I put them out of my mind. That's who and his numbers are kind of similar to what Isaiah Crowell's were. And no, he's not a great running back. And no, he's not a guy who is going to set the world on fire, but you're paying him millions of dollars, and it doesn't make sense in the great scheme of things to get Carlos Hyde and then to draft Saquon Barkley at number 4. It doesn't make any sense. And then what do you have? Then what did you pay Carlos Hyde for? And it's not insurance either, folks. You don't pay that kind of free agency money for an insurance policy.
Yeah.
So my feeling is you've got to get an impact player. I'm trying to read the mind of a very good poker player, all right? And Dorsey is a very good poker player. But let's look at it this way. The other guy who would be considered an impact player that we could grab at number 4, and we've already established we don't need a wide receiver, is Chubb, the defensive end.
Yeah.
But people will say, but Mr. Moohead, we have Miles and we have Ogba, and Ogba came on strong at the end of the year rushing the passer. But Mr. Moohead believes what I believe John Dorsey believes, and that's that Chubb and Miles on the outside, and we move Ogba inside.
Wow.
Okay? And the reason I say that is because the predominance of his season last year, before he hurt his foot, Ogba was rated higher as an inside tackle than he was a defensive end. Okay? He was rated higher. It also and Ogba, it was strong. He had the ability to get inside better than he did get outside. If we have 2 guys, Chubb and Miles, on the outside, and the defense has to be concerned with an outside pass rush, that means that your defensive tackles need to be more than just run stuffers as well. They've got to be able to get an inside pass rush, and Ogba proved he could do that. So I am almost guaranteeing you that Chubb will be the number 4 pick for the Cleveland Browns. And I agree with the concept because in my mind, if we can put pressure on another team's backfield and their quarterback and get losses and start forcing teams into 3rd and longs or force teams not to have big plays and allow Greg Williams to run a defense that he wants to run that incorporates blitzing into the mix, that makes sense to me. And I wouldn't complain if we did it.
Are you okay with Sam Darnold being the number 1 pick? Because everyone says it's even Mel Kiper's saying they're going to go that he's going to be number 1 selected. Are you okay with that pick?
I'm resigned to it, but there was a very interesting article that I was reading, and it talked about how lousy the NFL and all the teams in the NFL are at picking quarterbacks.
Yep.
The quarterback evaluation is like the worst fucking thing that teams do. And they went and did a multi-year analysis. At first they started looking at that terrible Peyton Manning versus Ryan Leaf draft.
Yep.
And Bill Polian, the genius, was agonizing whether he should take Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf. And he did end up getting, of course, Peyton Manning. And it's all just a matter of history that the Chargers made the terrible mistake.
Nope.
But there were loads of talking heads who were convinced that you couldn't go wrong with either guy. And, then there was the Cam Newton over Blaine Gabbert debate. And if you start looking at more and more of these things, take a look at these years as they go. It's almost amazing. The first quarterback drafted in 98 was the best. That was Peyton Manning. The first quarterback drafted in 99 was Tim Couch. Donovan McNabb was the best. In 2000, Chad Pennington was the first one drafted. Tom Brady was the best.
Yeah.
In 2001, Michael Vick was the first quarterback drafted, but Drew Brees was the best. Mm-hmm. In 2002, it was David Carr first, and the best quarterback was David Garrard. It was a weak season, a weak year for quarterbacks. 2003, they all got it right, Carson Palmer. In 2004, the first quarterback drafted was Eli Manning, but Ben Roethlisberger was the best. Yeah. On and on it goes. Alex Smith first, Aaron Rodgers best, Vince Young first, Jay Cutler best. Now we're talking about there's a varying degree of quality in these drafts. 2007 was a disaster. You had Jamarcus Russell first and Kevin Kolb is the best. I mean, it was bad. There's some seasons that and Kevin Kolb. It's like, here's the best one. 08 and 09, Ryan and Ryan, Stafford and Stafford, okay. And Bradford and Bradford in 2010, they got it right. Cam Newton in 2011. But, you have Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson was better. E.J. Manuel and Geno Smith. You want to put a gun to your head. That's like choosing between cancer and I don't know what else that's fatal.
Between having cancer or AIDS.
Yeah, that's right. Blake Bortles, Derek Carr, all right. Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. I mean, these are, and then the famed Jared Goff gets picked first, but Carson Wentz was better. And of course, Mitchell Trubisky, for God's sakes, and Deshaun Watson. So this is amazing if you stop and think, and if you look at all of the experts that you're paying attention to this time of the year and you analyze all of the data, they liked Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. They liked Matt Leinart. This is who they were picking number 1 in each year. They loved Jamarcus Russell. They loved Matt Ryan. But behind Matt Ryan, they loved Brian Brome. Joe Flacco, by the way, was in that draft. Matthew Stafford, they loved. They liked Mark Sanchez the next. There was nobody else who was any damn good in the draft. you know. And then there was the great year where the reason that everyone picked Bradford is the ones behind him were Jimmy Clausen, Colt McCoy, Tim Tebow, and Dan Lefevre. I mean, what can I tell you? That was a horrible draft. But my point is that I can tell you that I don't like Sam Darnold. Not personally, but I mean, the film I've seen on him, it scares the hell out of me. The turnovers, the fumbles, all of it. It scares the hell out of me. It scares the hell out of me that he's still apologizing for his collegiate career. Scares the hell out of me. But yeah, I'm resigned that we're going to get him. Yep.
I'm just kind of nervous he's going to be in the press conference after a loss. The Cleveland Browns like, God damn it, I threw another interception again. Oh, lost it for my teammates again.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't exactly inspire, obviously there are people in the chat room who want to reference the movie Airplane. So I got to ask you, Stephen, do you like gladiator movies?
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't?
All right, good. I was just doing that for the people in the chat room.
Okay.
All right. Ron Shane, we need players to put points on the board this season. Pick healthy guys. Well, yeah, healthy guys become unhealthy guys very quickly in the NFL. Yeah. I mean, that's hard to do.
We had 22 guys on our starting roster last year that were hurt.
And Mark Jones says, I've never been a fan of picking a developmental player number 1 overall to sit the bench. Dorsey said it best, we need real football players, but his definition of a real football player might be a real football player 2 or 3 years down the road when it comes to quarterback. So that's that. Actually, it was RG3 and Andrew Luck that year, Brian Hallman says. Yeah, exactly. And everything changes. You know, it was RG3 who lost his health, and now it's Andrew Luck, who everyone's wondering what the hell's going on with. Darnold equals Matt Barkley 2.0. I mean, there's going to be as many opinions about this. I don't know. I don't want Allen, and Rosen is the other one. I've been looking at extended film of Rosen, and the thing that kind of bothers me about him is that, like a lot of throwing quarterbacks in college, he doesn't feel the rush. The thing, I mean, everyone talks about the metrics, and I get that. How fast is the quarterback? How fast does he run the 40? What does he score on his Wonderlic tests? All of this stuff. But every great quarterback, and look at a guy like Brady, who couldn't beat a lot of people in a straight line race. And you're going to say, well, he has great protection. But you look at him when he was younger, when he wasn't just a statue. And it's the little things, the little movements that they make, when they're in the pocket, those, it's like, do I step up? Do I step to the side? Do I step back? The little evasive moves the quarterbacks instinctively have. Roethlisberger uses strength, but he also knows when to get out of the pocket, when to step up in. Rosen doesn't have that. He doesn't have a feel for that. A lot of people blamed his offensive line, but I looked at a lot of film where he was looking straight down the field, and we're not talking about his blind side that got him. We're talking about off of his right side of his line, and he just didn't pick up the rush. That is a problem, and it's a problem that is insurmountable in the NFL. Absolutely insurmountable.
So do you think Darnold is the lesser two evils sort of comparison as compared to Rosen or Allen?
I think it's flip a coin, and what I'm telling you is I'm no smarter than the other talking heads. When it comes to the quarterback position, I don't know. Josh Allen had the highest score on the Wonderlic test this year, and it's like, on and on and on it goes. I don't think that Josh Allen can hit the broadside of a barn, but you get gun shy when you're a Cleveland Browns fan. It seems like we always pick the wrong guy, so I don't know.
Mr. Moohead, don't it seem like whenever draft day comes and it's Cleveland's on the board and it's their turn to pick, you can see they show the draft room of all the players sitting there. They're all like they're shaking because they're like, please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. And then, when you pick Sam Darnold, I was like, oh, God damn it. Son of a bitch! I should have stayed in college.
Well, no, I mean, you know what I see? It's like they always show, and it's the Cleveland Browns that are up and getting ready to pick. And then they show Darnold, and the phone, and he's like on the phone and he's like, no speaker English. No speaker English. Yeah, it's funny. It's a little shake of the head. It's like, don't answer the phone. Don't answer it. Let's just wait for them to pick. Don't answer the phone. Jimmy Haslam getting a busy signal, trying to get a hold of Sam Darnold. It's like,
the players like, thank God.
Jimmy Haslam like, I can't get through. I can't get through to him. The line's busy. Woo! I can't get through. Yeah. Yeah, So I'm looking at Chubb at number 4. So then it leaves 33 and 35. And here's a problem, Cleveland Browns fans, that it's a hard one to get around. The offensive tackle need that the Cleveland Browns have is prolific, with Joe Thomas not coming back and the guys Spencer Drango and Sean Coleman who are inept. We don't really have much to put out there. We're going to have to draft an offensive tackle, and I'm not suggesting 33 or 35 is going to be it, but I'm going to explain to you what the problems are here, because there are 4 names, okay? The guy who's considered the best offensive tackle at the college level is Mike McGlinchey from Notre Dame. But the problem is he doesn't score very well in any one area. He's just kind of the jack of all trades, master of none. And he's risen to the top simply because there just aren't any Joe Thomases who are absolute killers at the left tackle position. Okay. My belief is, and McGlinchey will be gone after we pick 1 and 4, so we're not going to worry about 33 and 35 for him. Orlando Brown is another name that comes up from Oklahoma, and I've been just doing a lot of watching. Man, 345 pounds. Some say as much as 360 pounds. But he's not physically strong. He may be a good blocker at the point of attack, but he has athletic issues. Yep. And they feel that he isn't physically as strong as he should be, and he can be beaten with speed because he has these athletic issues. The thing is that many people feel that Orlando Brown should be a right tackle, not a left tackle. Okay? It's the problem that, you want to have your best guy protecting your quarterback's, blind side. So this is what I'm seeing with a lot of these people. Colton Miller, who blocked for Josh Rosen at UCLA. He's quick. He's got good feet. All right. However, he's had, injuries. He only played 5 games back in 2016, and he's been inconsistent. At 6'9" and 309 pounds, he's also looked upon as a guy who doesn't have strength. Every one of these names that I'm mentioning, and your guy, Connor Williams, the offensive tackle at Texas.
Yep.
You tell me about Connor Williams.
Well, the thing I like about Connor Williams, the bad thing about him is he's injury prone. He's been hurt a couple of times, especially in his junior and senior year. But the one thing I like about him is he's good in the team locker room. He's good at morale. He's good at bringing the team together. He's a very funny guy, and he kind of goofs off a lot on the sideline. So from a team moral standpoint, he's probably the best guy to have on your offensive line. He's one of the funniest guys ever. He's very good, especially against like blitz. He's good at picking up the blitz and all that. So it's very good to have on the offensive line in terms of that. He's good at protecting the quarterback in certain pressured situations. Just the only bad thing about him is he's injury prone. He's been injured a couple times, and that's why his draft stock has kind of went down.
Yeah, and here's the deal. He needs to gain weight. He's not strong enough. A number of general managers in the NFC felt that he lacked strength and that he was overhyped. Some said he would drop as low as a 4th rounder.
Possibly.
The thing is once again, all of these candidates are people who are likely to end up. I mean, they want to move Connor Williams to a guard position. They don't even think he's going to be a tackle at the pro level.
Oh, wow.
Because his measurements, he has short arms, and they don't feel that he can work well on the outside, that he's going to be more of an inside guy. And I understand that, you are what you are. He's kind of a short-armed guy. So all of these guys, it's not like they are primary left tackles. We don't have one.
Yeah.
And that is a big problem. My feeling about the offensive tackle, one of these names, not McGlinchey, but one of these names, Orlando Brown. Another one is Isaiah Wynn out of Georgia.
Yeah.
He's a run blocker, and he's nasty. He has a nasty temperament. But he's short in comparison to these other fellas, which doesn't make him ideal on the outside of the offensive line. And they're saying that he could move to guard or center. I think that what you're going to find is one of these names is coming to Cleveland, but is not going to be a left tackle. I don't know what we're going to do about left tackle. I have no fucking idea. But you cannot go 33 or 35 with a guy who is not a primary left tackle when that's what you need. So I think come round 4, or if they trade up and back up into 3, or if they have one pick in 3, which I'm not sure, that could be where you get an offensive tackle, but don't look for the savior coming out of that. My feeling is that cornerbacks become important. Let me explain. The Minkah Fitzpatrick thing is dead and gone at number 4, because anytime they say, well, we don't know whether he's going to be a cornerback or a safety, whenever that starts, we've already got a guy like that. We got Jabril Peppers. Whether we like him or we don't like him, my feeling is, why grab another guy like that? There's no point. And Fitzpatrick will be off the board by the time we're up at 33. But cornerbacks will be there. Not Denzel Ward. He will not be there. Okay. And not Joshua Jackson out of Iowa. He will not be there. He will be gone. Yeah. There are questions about Mike Hughes from the University of Central Florida. There are questions whether he'll be available, possibly the end of round 1, maybe sneak into round 2. But he did not have a very good combine running wise. And there are questions about his character that were reinforced during his interviews. He might be a problem child. You've got Carlton Davis from Auburn. He's a big cornerback. However, he doesn't move well. His deep speed receivers are going to get around him, and you cannot have that in Cleveland. Now, here's the guy who I have my eyes on, and he is a bit of a sleeper, Dante Jackson from LSU. Mm-hmm. Tolliver is the guy who's been hyped at LSU entering the 2017 season. However, Dante Jackson not only ran one of the fastest 40 times at the combine, and he ran with the deep threat receivers, he also has that unique thing called recovery speed, which is, even if he gets beat initially on a move, he has closing speed, which we don't have in our secondary whatsoever. He also runs with good open hips with agility. This is a guy who recorded 49 tackles, 10 passes broken up, and a pick in 2017. And he also played as a sophomore with 39 tackles, 8 breakups, and 2 picks. I really believe that this guy is number 33. He is projected to go in round 1 to 2. So I'm hoping that he is available on the board. We need speed in our secondary. That's what I see us doing with the 33 pick. And I'm hoping that he's there, because, you can talk about safeties all you want. If our cornerbacks can't run with wide receivers, we're giving 8-yard cushions again. And there's no way that you're going to win doing that. It's impossible. So that is kind of where I see 33 going. Now, wide receiver, and we talked about wide receiver, if in the event that Coleman, I don't know what the front office feels about him. Obviously, the top guys like Calvin Ridley, they're all going to be gone.
Yeah,
and
like Ridley from was it Alabama? Yeah, I like
yep, Alabama. And then you have a big slow guy, Cortland Sutton, who's more of a space eater, but he running a 4.54. No, and you got DJ Moore out of Maryland, and now we're already down to round 2 or 3. All right. DJ Moore is a guy who's built more like a running back than he is a receiver, I could see us picking a wide receiver, but not 35, because a lot of these guys are just projecting out in the 3rd round picks, and we don't have an immediate need for that. So go ahead.
It seems like no matter who you draft, these players aren't expected to be impact players for the next year or so, maybe 2 years, before you see true results out of these guys or their true potential come out.
Well, the next thing is the inside linebacker. And, Rashaan Evans, who's an inside linebacker from Alabama, 11.5 tackles for losses, 6 sacks. He's as fast, he's physical, but he's looking at round 1 or 2 to go in. Again, there's a real chance we could go with an inside linebacker. I could see it happening. I could see running inside blitz schemes and having a guy with speed being able to pick up tight ends where need be. I can see it happening. The guy below Rashaan Evans is Leighton Vander Esch from Boise State, and it drops quick because he's projected in the 2nd or 3rd round. So it's not a real ripe draft for these positions, But if it were me, and I've said this a million times before, I think for a building young franchise, I go defense first. If I have enough wide receivers, I have enough running backs, if I've got what I need in that regard, then I'm happy. And I'm going to look defense. And where I'm going to look defense is if I'm already moving Agba over so I can have Chubb and Miles rushing the passer, and I'm already looking at drafting a cornerback at 33, there's going to be other opportunities lower in the draft to get offensive tackles.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be looking at linebackers.
Can I ask you a question? If Chubbs is drafted at 4 and you're going to move the other guy to the nose tackle and you're going to have Chubbs and Miles playing on both outsides, do you see Greg Williams playing the corners up closer now, or you think he's still going to play him 9 yards off the line of scrimmage?
Well, no, I don't. I think that was by necessity. We had no athletes. We had no speed in the secondary whatsoever. All these people that you're seeing that are being brought in who are basically second-tier secondary guys, and there are a bunch of them that we have brought into camp. These guys all have one thing in common. They may not be knock them dead, drag them out, great NFL cornerbacks, but they have speed, much better speed than what we had last year. And no, we're not going to be giving 8-yard cushions to wide receivers. And we also need more speed at linebacker position. Look, I like Joe Scobert, and there's things that he can do, but if you're going to have 3 men on that, and then you've got Ogunjobi on top of it, and that's your 4 linemen with Agba and Ogunjobi in the middle. And Ogunjobi, he can inside pass rush too and stop the run. And then you have Coley and Brantley, those 2 guys coming off the bench to, for depth inside on the defensive line. That's all good. We're going to need somebody who can blitz besides secondary guys. Linebackers become important. And I can see the Browns drafting a fast one. I don't know. Mark Jones is saying, Moo, please have a show on the 26th for instant reaction to draft picks 1 and 4 if you can. I'll try to do that. I don't see why not. Instant bovine reaction. Let's see what else people are saying. Pretty sure we have one of those in Duke Johnson. Obviously, Duke isn't going anywhere. Amsterdam says Browns will trade back into the first round. No, they're not. We need too many bodies for that, and we need multiple offensive linemen because I don't think the Browns. I think that you'll see Spencer Drango and Sean Coleman as depth on the team, but neither of these men are going to start. And then, we're going to always scan the waiver wires because that's another way to find wide receivers sometimes if you're interested is the UDFAs. So this is what I think. And so I am still debating the linebacker that we go after, but I believe quarterback, defensive end, cornerback, and linebacker.
Nice.
1, 4, 33, and 35. And so, we've done some damage. We've done some good damage as far as free agency. Done some real good damage as far as helping our wide receivers. And now I think we've got to shore up a defense that there's no point in having Greg Williams.
Doesn't it seem like Mr. Moohead, like Wade Jackson's kind of like a fish out of water? Because you got like Dorsey making all these moves to sort of help both Greg Williams and the offense side of the ball, which I guess you say Hugh Jackson. But Hugh Jackson's not even mentioned during this offseason. Do you think maybe that they're kind of waiting for Hugh to fail at the beginning of the season so Dorsey could show him the door?
My belief is he's expendable. And I think the organization knows he's expendable. I think Huey knows he's expendable. And the bottom line is that the team is focused not on Huey. The team is instead focused on improving the level of talent on the team. And that's where it should be right now. The head coach, if you don't have, you're not going to get a head coach who's a quality head coach if you have shit talent on your roster. That's how we got Huey in the first place. Guy looking to get his way back into the starting, a head coach kind of thing. After so many years removed from Oakland and the problems that he had there with the front office. So if you want a better head coach guy, you got to have talent, somebody who's going to be motivated to come to Cleveland. And that to me is the most important thing we can do.
Yep.
So that's what I got for you today. And I hope my wisdom is correct because one thing that I do know, I don't expect great offensive things and putting up big amounts of points with Tyrod Taylor and with what we have on offense, Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson. I'm not looking at a prolific scoring football team. I'm looking for a football team that will have the ability to get the ball into the red zone and not make the ridiculous mistakes they've made, score a few more touchdowns, kick some field goals, and I want a team that stops the other team, that gives us a chance in cold weather and throughout the season, that keeps the games close so that we can, from a management perspective on the offense, score enough points to win. That's what a sensible general manager would do. And if you build up that defense first and foremost, then you have future drafts and future years to bring in those nice offensive pieces to be able to build your ability to score up.
My father had a question for you real quick. I forgot. I wrote this down. I just saw it. I had to give my dad a shout out because he's watching on his cell phone. He wants to know, does the Ken Dorsey era starts now or does it start after Wade Jackson's demise? Because Wade Jackson is not Dorsey's guy?
It's now. It's starting now because all the players that are going to be drafted are going to be drafted by Dorsey. So this is the first thing, and I just think they're all waiting for Huey to fail. To be very honest, I think they're waiting for a good excuse to let him go. But I think this is the season.
How many years do you give Dorsey? With him building up on the draft and all that, how many years would you give him before you either can evaluate his true status? Is he a good GM? Is he a bad GM? How many years would you give him?
All I need to see realistically is the people that he drafts in addition to the free agents he adds in those first 2 years with the team. Because when you're 0-16, it shouldn't be hard to make noticeable eye test improvements with the team. I mean, when you're watching a game, you see how slow we are, and you see that we're beyond prevent defense. Our prevent defense prevents us from winning. I mean, 8-yard cushions, give me a break. And Jabril Peppers somewhere, selling popcorn in the far regions of CBS. It doesn't make sense. We should see with our eyes an improved roster, improved special teams. We should see wide receivers who get open more frequently. They're just things that pass the eye test. So 2 years.
Speaking of eye test, Mr. Moohead, doesn't it seem like if you look at all the old coaches and old GMs you had, it seems like they hire all these kind of yes man guys? Because after a Cleveland loss, I go on the Cleveland.com news channel website, and also go on the Cleveland Browns YouTube channel, which they do the interviews with the coaches, the players, and whether it's Terrell Pryor or rather it's Miles or rather it's Wade Jackson or whoever, or Bettine or Pettin, whatever you want to call him. All these guys, when they hit the interview, it's like they just keep a straight face. It's like I've never seen a group of men so nonchalant about constantly losing. I mean, like a guy like me, I'm throwing glasses, I'm throwing chairs through the wall. The Bears are who they thought we were, and we let them off the hook.
Yeah,
These
but
guys are just so nonchalant about losing. It's insane,
The problem with that is that if Denny Green were around to do that today with all the 24/7 and the bombardment, I mean, he would just, I think coaches intentionally keep it low key because they don't want to become the target. They don't want to be in the crossfire. And I think that they don't want to give the players the impression that they're panicking. I think you're going to continue to see low key kinds of stuff. But, my belief is it's all about talent right now. It's not about the head coach. You know what I think of him, and I think most people think of him the same way. But with better talent, the fans will at least say it's worth watching this team play as opposed to last year where it was just hopeless from the get-go.
There's no way for this roster right here to be 0-16. There's no way. If it's even any indication, they go 0-5 or 0-6. That's Wade Jackson right there.
Yeah, well, and as we get ready to leave you here today, the Indians, of course, hit 0-0 in the fourth inning, and Kluber's given up one hit, but Liriano's no-hitting the Cleveland Indians. So we didn't miss a goddamn thing with sub-0 degree baseball weather and snow drifts and God knows what else, and lake effect. We've talked football for damn near an hour, and that makes us better than the other outlets in Cleveland.
13th MLB game just canceled today or postponed.
Woohoo. Yeah, we see the sun's out in Cleveland, but a polar bear just walks across center field.
But Mr. Moohead, imagine getting up let's say you fly back to Cleveland and it's late May and it's like, oh man, what a bright and sunny day. I might go for a swim in the pool, and all of a sudden you jump in the pool and it's a big ass block of ice,
Yeah. Well, that's what you got up there. And we'll see. I'm going to take a look at the weather forecast too. I'm going to see if that's true that they're looking at prolonged cold weather, but it shouldn't affect me here in South Carolina. We're starting to get into the 70 degrees this coming week.
Yeah.
So let's hope it stays there. Stephen, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it as always.
No problem, Mr. Moohead.
All right. Thank you. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. We're going to get this up on the archive as soon as possible, within probably 10 minutes. And thanks for watching. And let's hope the Browns just do the right thing. Until Friday, hasta la vista, pass your heads. Good night.